Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to another video on Code Crafting channel. And today we are going to cover the command line interface. Specifically, we are going to be on the operating system of Mac OS. So if you are using Windows, it is called the command prompt. And if you're using a Linux-based distribution, I'm not sure what it's going to be called. It depends on what, distribution you're using and how you set it up. I have no idea. But I'm going to be using specifically a downloadable Mac OS replacement for the existing terminal. And the reason why we're not going to go into HTML or CSS just yet is because the terminal is a very important part of development, and it is something that should not be underestimated. And skipping to, development right away without understanding the terminal is kind of a disadvantage. I can't tell you how many people that start a boot camp and are trying to learn HTML and CSS, and they are in the beginning. It's a little bit difficult for them because they can't click how to do things in the terminal, and they tend to learn the terminal while they're learning Git for version control, which we'll discuss later. Version control is its own thing that's beneficial in the command line interface, but yeah, essentially they just don't get it. So I'm going to do it from the beginning. I'm not going to spend a ton of time showing you configuration of mine. I will kind of give you some links to look at, and you can go and follow through on your own time. That's what developers do. We look into things, we get some understanding, and then we go figure it out. And it's a little bit difficult, but that's the point. So also, real quick shout out to my other two playlists. I have a playlist right now where I'm teaching my 5-year-old, fundamentals of programming. It's more of a free-for-all. We're having a great time dealing with Scratch. So if you'd like to check those out, there is a series for that. And then I have another series I'm going to be doing, which is going to be a third series. Not this. This is the second one, which is going to be Road to Salesforce Dev. And that's going to be going through Salesforce Dev's Trailhead, different modules for the development certifications. And I'm just going to be taking all the exams and hopefully getting all of my Salesforce Dev certs. So that's going to be an interesting track on its own. Probably a little bit further along for somebody who's just diving into development. I've been developing for about 4 years now. It took a long time for certain things to click, and so I'm going to try to keep this stuff very general and very high level. That being said, we are going to go ahead and dive in. If you are on a Mac operating system or a Windows operating system, you should be able to easily find the command prompt via your programs on Windows. And on Mac, you can use Spotlight. Spotlight will help you find terminals. It is called Terminal on the OS system. And it's really, really small, but you can see here that I am in the directory, the user directory Zion. Yes, that is a Matrix reference. And this is a bash terminal. And you can see it is for Franklin's MacBook Pro. Now, this is the standard one out of the box. There is preferences. You can go ahead and use like their default themes, I guess you could say. I have not really used the general terminal very often. Like, I don't even know how you open it back up and get the theme to apply. But yeah, this is what most people start with. You can set settings of how big it starts off, etc. But for options, there are two options that I think are pretty common. The first is iTerm2 for Mac OS terminal replacement, and this is a free downloadable, I guess you could say just downloadable application that is, in my opinion, just a little bit more flexible than the standard terminal for different themes, etc. And I'll also link OhmyZish, which is a delightful open source framework for the iTerm terminal that'll allow you to have tons of different customization for themes. You can set up, there are 1,200 plus contributors to this platform. And so when you see people in their terminal and it looks like this, and you're thinking, man, that guy's just so smart, or it looks just really cool. This is because people spend a lot of time configuring their environments the way that they enjoy them. So that is more of the flavorful side of the terminal. But I'm going to post this article from Nathan Robinson that was posted in 2017. So basically a year and a half ago or so. And it just says why you need terminal. And he did this pretty well. You can see his terminal is pretty cool looking. I like the aesthetics he has for it. But he talks about really like what the terminal is, what bash is in general, what you can use it for, why it's powerful. I'm not going to go into the explicit details, but this is kind of a cool little short article from him. I could have whipped up something like this as well, but it just doesn't make sense to spend the time instead of just linking something that'll give you a little insight on why you would want to use a terminal. Now, as far as the actual terminal we are going to use iTerm2. So this is iTerm2. This is, I have it open pretty large, hopefully you can see it. But right now it says Zion, which is the user I'm at. So if I use the command pwd, I can go ahead and I can display the path of where I currently am in a directory. And this is what how a computer organizes all of its files. Directories. Directories are the same thing, if you don't understand that, as like a folder. And so this terminal is also an exact replication to the computer as this graphic user interface is called Finder, specifically in OS, or if you open up in any other non-Mac OS location to look at directories. And so this is essentially the same. We are in the same location to the computer and to the, well, I guess you should say to the operating system. And so right now we can see all of our files in this GUI. But the thing about this GUI is you have to click, maybe you have to look at it like this. Sometimes it's nice for if you're looking through images, you can look through them like this. You can still do that in the terminal as well if you didn't know. But essentially it's it's the same thing as if I went into desktop here and I created a new folder. I have created a new directory. I'm naming it here, etc. And if I want to delete it, I can move it to the trash, and then I can empty it out of the trash if I'd like. But it is a GUI, and that stands for Graphic User Interface. For those of us who don't, I guess we want more performance, we want to move a little quicker, we don't want to pull up a bunch of GUIs and have a bunch of different GUIs, we may want to have a faster environment, meaning that with Windows right now, with operating system, that is Mac, if we wanted to have another Finder, we'd have to open up another Finder, and we'd have to traverse through them using probably Command tilde key. But in this case, we can create multiple tabs of different shells, you could call them, and then we could use different command keys to actually navigate around them much, much faster. And they will also say what they are, and you can close them pretty easily. There's even commands for, faster ways of doing these things, for new window, new tab, duplication of a tab. You can have a bunch of different configurations. So it can get really, 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 really powerful. So that being said, we are currently in, if we use the command ls, we are in the directory of Zion, which is a user directory, which we confirm with pwd. And this is essentially it. We're in the users directory. Inside the users directory is a user called Zion. And then here is a bunch of files. So now you'll notice the GUI and Finder actually shows at this level a bunch of .dot files. And that's because those files are hidden. And innately in your Finder in Mac OS, you won't actually be able to see these files. You have to run a specific command in the terminal, actually, in the default terminal or in a terminal like iTerm2, that will actually make it so your GUI will show hidden files. But if you want to find them and not see them like this, the ls command for directories, you can do ls-a, and it'll actually list all of the files, including the hidden ones. So that's something that's pretty cool. But basically, I'm going to bring up on the screen a command line cheat sheet from GitTower, and I will link this below. All you have to do is put in your email, and they will give you a free PDF version that you can throw into your Kindle paper or whatever, or have next to you when you're first traversing after you've kind of learned the importance of the terminal. The terminal and the command line in general, you are going to be doing a lot in it. You're going to be installing things globally to your machine. If you're going to be configuring Zish, for example, my Zish for your iTerm, you're going to be using the terminal to do that and generate and find certain files probably a lot easier, like setting up your Zish file. All of those different things. You're going to be installing things globally using the command line, and even in a embedded environment where you are developing, like that may have a built-in terminal, it's still not going to be as fluid as having something like a straight-up terminal. right? And you can pretty much on Mac or Linux, I'm not sure about Windows. I know that I think they have window tiling too, but you can easily move around between your command line or between your terminal and your text editor or IDE very easily if you just use Command Tab and are going between the two. So it's worth doing, even if you're going to use it in an embedded system. You might want to separate some concern there and keep things focused. So this is a cheat sheet, and I'm going to real quickly go through this because I don't want this video to be too long, and we're already at 10 minutes. So now I'm just going to go ahead and take advantage of this particular command line sheet. So I'm going to move this over here, and in this case I'll just kind of move this down. Normally I would just full screen them, but I'd have to fix this a little even more. So okay, so we are in this directory. I can do ls to see that. I'd like to be in desktop. I can use CD to navigate to a directory, and specifically I want to go to desktop. If I use D, it says, well, there's a lot of D when I do tab to autocomplete, and so I have to specify DE to get desktop to autocomplete, and now you can see that it has changed to in desktop. Now I can go ahead and see that in this directory, when I list my contents, that I have 3 directories inside of this desktop directory: coding, design, and goals. And I'm going to go ahead and CD into coding. But let's say now that I'm in coding, which has more directories inside of it nested, I'd like to get back up to the directory that I once came from. This is where you can navigate using CD ... and now you can see I'm back in a desktop and not in the coding directory. So I can move around very quickly without clicking a lot of things and having to look. I can just see it right here in the command line, and that's already a benefit and something that you'll probably be doing quite a bit. I can also use the clear command just to clear the page. If I scroll up, you can see it did not actually delete it. It's just clearing the view space so I can kind of refresh and do stuff that I'm doing, and it'll keep all that stuff logged unless you close the session that you're working in. So that's the benefit also, is you can go back and look through logs or whatever you did to see what's going on. Now you can actually do, like I showed before, ls.a to see any hidden files, or -la will show you even more. And you can actually even see here some of the size of stuff and the dates of stuff. It's pretty cool. So that's kind of the ls for directories. Now we're going to work on creating like a directory. So creating a folder. Let's say in desktop, I don't want to, right now I got coding, design, and goals. Well, that's kind of how I work. That's what I want. I also have something else in documents that's different, right? So if I go to my directory, my parent directory, and I go into documents, and here I have personal, work, and then Zoom. So this is kind of where I might break into other sections. So I have everything organized very cleanly, which helps me navigate and organize and find things very cleanly versus having a desktop with tons and tons of files all over it. That's just inefficient, and honestly it's just stressful. And the more files you get, and the more images and assets, whatever you have, you should really take the time, especially as you start this year, to just organize. So I'm going to create a directory, and the command for that is mkdir, and that's kind of short for make directory. And in documents, I'm going to create a directory that isn't personal, work, or Zoom, but maybe business. So in here, I'm going to use mkdir, make directory, and I'm going to call it business. And now if I ls, you can see I have a business directory. So I'm going to get into that using change directory business. And at this point, you can see there's nothing in it when I use ls. So I'm in the business directory of documents, and now I'd like to actually create a file. So if I want to create a file, and this could be any file type. Every file type, based on how operating systems handle them, is they have a file type that is specified after the dot of the name of the file type. So, if for images, if you aren't really comfortable with development, you might be, be more comfortable with seeing like .png, .jpeg, or if you're comfortable with text documents, you might see .txt, or if you've dealt with fonts, font types, all files have something different. That's what a PDF is. It is a explicit file type. So without going too much into that, we are going to create a file, and I'm going to create a file using touch, and touch is the keyword to create a file. And I'm going to call this file, I guess, boss goals. and I'm going to make it into an MD, a markdown file. So if I list this here, you can see now in this directory of business, I have a file. Now let's say for whatever reason, this file in this folder needs to go away. I need to delete it. I can use rm2delete, which just kind of stands for, I think for shorthand, remove, but it's weird because it's really just like deleting a file. So that's what I'm pretty sure rm is standing for, remove. And they're doing these things like short, so you don't have to type like remove out every single time. And I have to specify boss.goals tabbed autocomplete, and now that file is gone. Now I'm done with the business directory. I want to get out of this, so I'm going to use cd ... to go to the parent element, which is documents, and you can see I've got business, and I actually want to get rid of Zoom as well while I'm here. So to do this, I can do rm-r and then the directory name, which in this case would be business, right? Now the problem is if there's something in there, it might question you as far as, are you sure you want to initialize this? If you really want to get rid of it, you can use the sudo keyword in front of it to essentially try to override. Sometimes it will require you to actively type in your user password, the actual password to logging into your user on your operating system. But this is kind of a way to just full on just delete it if you want to. And it'll just ask you that when you do remove-r because it doesn't want you to delete something that has a bunch of stuff in it without being sure. And there are ways to get around that. So I actually want to get rid of this whole directory. And in this case, you can see because I use a sudo keyword, it's asking for my password. It does not show it in there or give you even the characters. So you have to basically type it right for it to work. Now I also would like to actually delete Zoom directory. So I'm going to also do remove-r and do Zoom. And so now I have this clean documents directory of just my directories, personal and work. So that is a little bit of how you can kind of navigate the file system, deleting a file, deleting a directory, creating a directory. You can search for something. So if I know I have something like I want to use, there's a certain directory, in this directory, let's say it's coding, and I use the -name and then I specify the file name, I can find that specific file as well. I don't have a file name to the top of my head, so I'm not going to use that search. There's also grep to like output all the occurrences of text inside a file, and you can also use -i for case sensitivity, but we're not going to use that. And then there's networking. There's a couple of other things on there like for permissions and stuff, but for networking you can establish an SSH connection to a host with a username. You can also like download a file using curl. You can, ping hosts. So like if you play video games, for example, or you're doing something that's online, there's a ton of different servers that are being hosted that you can choose from. You could write a script to ping all of those servers, get the ping back, which is essentially how fast is the network. And you can pick the smallest ping response, and then you'd basically be on the fastest server for your location, because those servers could be around the world. And so that might be something that you could use just quickly in your terminal to determine. And you can ping, Google if you wanted to just see what the response is and stuff. So that's pretty much the main things of the command line interface. I know that was a lot. We spent about 18 minutes. There is a lot more to this. I will link the why you need a terminal and the command line cheat sheet links in the bottom below. Hopefully this video was very helpful for you if you're just starting. And it's good to know this stuff because later, as we get into Git and using version control, knowing how to use your terminal and navigate around is going to make it a lot smoother for you. You're going to be less confused about like, wait, where am I? For example, and you don't need to know what this means, but if you go to create a package JSON file using npm init, and then you are not in the correct directory where that package JSON file exists, and you use npm install, you're not going to be able to actually reference the package JSON file to install your node modules. So this is an example where I've seen students or people who are just going through a boot camp or are learning on their own, and they didn't really spend the time to like mess around with the terminal very much. They're trying to learn development right away, which is understandable. I'm taking things very slow with this series, but that is something that, it takes somebody else's time, it takes your time, and had you just really known how to check where you were and use PWD, you might have been able to determine that maybe I'm not in the same file here. Oh, I'm in the wrong directory. And then you could just easily get into the right directory, try the command again, and realize that now it works, and save yourself potentially. I've seen people take up to 45 minutes to an hour. So this is just something that seems really simple, very fundamental, but get used to using the command line. It is also what we are going to use to start creating files as we learn HTML. It's going to be what we use to create CSS files. It's going to be what we use to, at least when we're doing vanilla stuff, create JavaScript files without package.json or yarn or any of that stuff when we just go through vanilla. And then we are going to use it for Git, which is going to allow us to put our code base or whatever code we're working on GitHub so that it's open to the web or private depending. And that's everything for today. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. It's very long, very raw, a lot of information, but just try to take it in a little bit at a time. Apologies for my voice. I've had a lot of mentor sessions these last 2 weeks and I'm starting to lose it. So that being said, have a great day, you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one, in which we are going to start learning HTML, CSS, and version control. And we're going to start off with some basics of the web, and then we're going to jump into learning HTML, hopefully the correct way, and thinking of it in the context of a developer roadmap. So that being said, have a great one, and hope you guys enjoy your evening. Thanks for watching.